Brother Zain is asking, it's a generated question. Will our salah be valid behind an imam despite us knowing that his tajweed is really bad to the extent he is making serious mistakes? Now, Sheikh, before you answer this question, we have to clarify some points. We don't know the level of qira'ah the questioner has, number one. We don't know whether it's a regular imam, guest imam, or the actual main imam wasn't present and someone from the congregation had to lead the salah. We don't know that. And number three, it's a question that perhaps if you can kindly also shed light whose responsibility it is when it comes to addressing such matter, individual in front of all the congregation or one-to-one on a personal level or speaking to the committee member, Sheikh.
So thank you, Brother Abu Bakr Abdullah, for your question pertaining to the validity of a person's salah behind an imam with questionable levels of qira'ah or tajweed. Proficiency in the recitation. And the answer to this requires me to highlight the ambiguity embedded in the question, which is a very proper question. The ambiguity being, is the imam's qira'ah to the level where actually the meaning is being changed, or is this a situation where you have one of those, aficionados or guys who are really into tajweed, which is something very praiseworthy in and of itself. And when you're learning something, often what happens to the mind is you become so focused on it, almost the slightest errors can be seen as a flagrant violation of the rules of tajweed. Whereas in reality, some of those rules of tajweed are differed upon. Some of those two rules of tajweed are, praiseworthy and valuable to have them as embellishments for the tajweed, but they're not actually a requirement or a wajib in and of itself. So tajweed is of degrees, it's of levels, where it changes the actual Arabic meaning, then that's known as a lahan, jali, zahir, something which is a very open, apparent error, such that the meaning itself is being changed. That would be an issue. Where it's a lahan khafi, mustatir, something which is more discreet, the exact characteristics, of a letter being slightly off, that's not going to be a huge issue, and most people would fall under that. In fact, I'll give you a very classic example. Even the letter Dad in Arabic is known as the letter Lughatul Dad. Imam Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and few other people who really manage to recite the letter Dad amongst the Arabs correctly as it ought to be recited. Moreover, others who are more into tajweed will be aware that also the letter Dad, there's ikhtilaf or difference of opinion amongst the scholars about how it's pronounced. Is it pronounced closer to al-dha, so wal-dhalin, or is it pronounced closer to another form, which is al-dha, more whole and hard, if you like, so to speak. So there are degrees of differences, and one needs to be aware of this. So this is something to be borne in mind, and accordingly I'd say to you that the default assumption should be that an imam is chosen with proper tajweed, and thus your salah would be acceptable behind them. Okay, so that's the default position. The way to go about addressing that is, yes, of course, you can speak to a trustee discreetly. You could perhaps speak to the imam if you're someone of knowledge yourself, again, privately. But if you're not a person of knowledge and you're not an authority in tajweed, or perhaps younger than the imam as well, then perhaps it's better to go through someone who is a person of knowledge and has some standing and verifies the situation, and then considers discreetly and with tact and etiquette broaching the issue in and of itself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I'd add, Brother Qamar, that there's a masjid, just on a slightly closely related topic. There was a masjid which they had an imam who recited in a different qira'ah, meaning not Hafs and Asim, it was another qira'ah, Warsh or Qalun. And the people praying behind them, sometimes there's a similar sort of mindset whereby there's an assumption, I know, whereas often we don't know. Okay. So he was reciting with a different qira'ah, and the people were so keen to correct, they didn't understand he's reciting correctly.
Absolutely. I was about to suggest that to you because I did encounter certain occasions I did come across that, including someone sent me Al-Afas's video and saying, how did Sheikh make a mistake? Whereas he was reading in a different qira, which was in Warsh. And that's exactly, you've highlighted the point I wanted to discuss. Jazakallah khair for that. So that is the main point which Sheikh has addressed.